I'm Hilary Sparrow. I'm the owner and founder of a forensic and clinical private practice specializing in psychotherapy for PTSD and TBI. Additionally, I founded Hilary Sparrow Group, which provides coaching support to high performers, thought leaders, healers, and entrepreneurs to help build their lives around freedom and leisure time. For 2021, we are launching a speaker series to support the global discussion on topics like entrepreneurship, feminine intelligence, embodiment, running a business, psychology, and ketamine therapy. We have exciting speakers lined up from all over the world. Subscribe below if you want to check it out. For today's interview, we have a special guest and are interviewing Jeffrey Slayter for an exciting discussion on some pretty unique methods to support businesses. Jeffrey supports modern-day visionaries who are here to make the world a better place, from CEOs to entrepreneurs to executives and billion-dollar organizations to execute their vision. Jeffrey has shared the stage with other incredible thought leaders like Sir Richard Branson, the founder of Virgin, Dr. John Demartini, Frank Kern, Tim Ferriss, Tony Robbins, and more. Wow, let's welcome today, Jeff Slayter.
So welcome, Jeff. Thank you for being with us today. And can you give us a background in your experience working with entrepreneurs, the types of clients you work with, and how that relates to your work with plant medicines?
Sure. So to give there's a whole backstory, but I'm going to cut right to it to just give you the general idea of where I'm coming from, so people can take what I have to share and actually apply it. Because oftentimes people hear information, but they don't know where it's coming from. So I've worked with over 1 million people and from 13 different countries. I have been in the transformation and speaking space for over 15 years. I've had the privilege of sharing stages with Richard Branson, Tony Robbins, Dr. Demartini, Tim Ferriss, and many more on some of the largest stages in the world. I've also been working with coaches and consultants, and that includes service professionals like therapists, things like that, and practitioners on helping them go from 6 to 7 figures and beyond. And as far as my experience with working with plant medicine specifically, I have probably one of the top. It's funny, the plant medicine world, you don't want to talk too much about yourself because it is what it is, but I've conducted a lot of retreats, taking executives and entrepreneurs. And I say a lot, far more than majority of having people, executives, entrepreneurs work with plant medicines specifically. And then sometimes I'll work with very, very high net worth entrepreneurs as well, more in a private setting where we'll sit with and introduce them to some of the incredible powers of these entheogens.
Okay, great. So it sounds like you worked with a wide variety of entrepreneurs. Now, what are the differences that you've noticed in entrepreneurs who are pro plant medicine or pro psychedelic therapy and those who are not, in terms of metrics, revenue, operating margins, and overall personality?
I find that, and there's nothing wrong with either one. There's no entrepreneurs that work with psychedelics are more incredible than entrepreneurs that don't. Sure. It's just different paths, right? But what I have noticed is quite interesting is the entrepreneurs that are open to shifting their reality. You know, Bruce Lee says we got to be like water in our thinking a bit, and the more we can be like water, the more we can be fluid. And there's a saying: the person in the system that has the most range has the most influence. Mm-hmm. So therefore, what I'm sharing with you is that I find that the entrepreneurs that are open to working with psychedelics specifically, in a shamanic or in an environment that is the intention of creating change and transformation in a safe space. Mm-hmm. You know, what tends to happen is they rekindle their relationship with themselves, and this increases empathy with themselves. And when they rekindle that empathy within themselves, I've noticed a drastic difference in the level of productivity with the team around them, because their team has the experience of being seen by them because they see themselves, and then the productivity actually goes up. The other thing that happens is more creative ideas flow as well. I've had entrepreneurs work with me where the companies are only a couple $1 million, and then they work with these entheogens. They not only they start to realize that, oh, maybe my relationship with my wife and my partner is affecting my business. So they go heal that and transform that, and then boom, they start generating more revenue, and then they're better leaders, mm-hmm. and they're more productive, and their revenue, like $2 million to $15 million revenue. And is it all the psychedelics? we don't know. But you know what? There seems to be a factor with entrepreneurs that can shift their mindsets. For example, even like, Elon Musk, Tony Robbins, Tim Ferriss. I mean, it's a little bit now, it's kind of like, if you're not open to this at this point, to exploring how these incredible technologies can work with us, then what I've noticed is the ones that don't, they seem to be more closed thinking.
Okay.
And less in tune with themselves sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Not all of them. But what I have found is that if they're not open to going past their minds and connecting with their deepest selves, they tend to be a little more robotic in their leadership.
Okay.
Robotic in their in the way their team experiences them. It's like oftentimes it can be where and it doesn't need to be through psychedelics specifically. It needs like a psychedelic experience. It could be through deep meditation. It could be through breath work. But psychedelics seem to be a great tool for helping people, support them to accessing those parts that might be harder with meditation. That might be easier with the psychedelic than just meditation. So my point is that it seems to be that their employees often have to check their humanness at the door with the entrepreneurs that are closed-minded to having their reality altered and challenged.
Excellent. That's a great explanation. And as you were talking about that, we see this in the therapeutic space too, where some of these medicines and even psychotherapy can help to lift and become more aware of cognitive and behavioral rigidities and create more openness and expansiveness with thinking and more levels of intimacy with self as well.
Yeah, and like exactly what you're saying, you're right. It's like it's in your space. I know that what you do, and you do a great job at it, is work with people and changing their lives and having them become more open to what's possible through the work of these incredible psychedelics in a safe space. And then you also probably support other practitioners in growing their business so they can impact more people.
Yes.
And this type of thinking is necessary for either domain in order to create transformation.
Absolutely. And so often in the healing space too, sometimes people come in or clients come in wanting a method or wanting to reach and grab for a solution and something that'll fix them, something externally. But with these therapies and the work we can do with clients in the clinical space and also entrepreneurs, is these medicines help us access the healer within. So it's no longer reaching for what's out there, but it's accessing what's in here. And then what's in here can then influence businesses, influence family relationships, and then it sort of has this circling effect and it comes back.
Yeah, exactly. There's a saying, all parts affect the whole.
Mm-hmm.
So when people go inward and they change their relationship with themselves, and they're no longer trying to find the answers outside of themselves.
Yes.
They find it within themselves. It changes themselves as leaders. And then basically what I've noticed with my most successful entrepreneurs that really made it happen, the ones that were challenging the status quo, and I don't say their names, but like some people would know their names. And what I found is that they really, really were willing to charter uncharted territory within themselves. And they were willing to, as David Goggins says, face the mirror of accountability. They were willing to face themselves. And then they were really willing to go to become more self-leadership. And then from themselves, they were better leaders. They could lead themselves more effectively. And then I noticed a dramatic impact with them leading their teams more effectively.
Wow, that's so profound. I love that. And I love what you said about they're able to chart new territory. And I think that's what makes entrepreneurs is their willingness to question the status quo and do something completely different, build something, create something different.
Very much so. Very much so.
Okay. And so can you share, I know you shared a few examples, but can you share a specific story about an insight that either you or a client had with a psychedelic therapy or a plant medicine and how it led to a more efficient business practice?
Sure. I'm scrolling my experiences for the one that would be best.
Okay.
There was a client of mine who was very, very busy in his life, very busy with his company.
Mm-hmm.
And that busyness was he was consumed by it. And he didn't have any time to go on a retreat to the jungles for 10 days. He was like, I don't have the time. And I had developed a great relationship with this particular person, and he's awesome. And I was like, you know what? You're never going to have the time. You're never going to have the time if you don't make the time to spend time outside of that busyness for just even 10 days, just see what happens. And he's like, didn't do it, didn't want to go, couldn't go, too busy. And then of course, like about 4 weeks before, I don't know if I can make it. I just don't know. And I'm like, you should go. You like, if you want to go, you know? And I think it'll really be transformational for you. And you know what'll happen is your company will still be there when you get back. In fact, it'll probably still be thriving.
Mm-hmm.
And then about a week before, he goes, I'm going. And he says, I'm going, let's go, books his tickets. This is kind of how he is. And then he goes. Yeah, and he did it. And what actually happened for him was day one in the jungle, he was hard for him because his mind was so busy. And that experience started to get even worse by about day 2. But we hadn't sat with any of the psychedelics yet, any of the medicines. And then by the 3rd day we sat in some of the medicines, and he had a shift. And he just through this work, and he realized his whole life was just about being busy because he derived his significance from being busy.
Okay.
And he could just slow down. And then by him just slowing down for a moment, and then for the first time, I've never seen this guy, and I was friends with him for a while before that. He was actually relaxed. His whole nervous system settled down. And he was breathing in his belly again, and he had more space about him. Mm-hmm. And he had this idea that came to him in that that came when he had space. It's amazing what happens in space. And he had this idea that came to him to take his company, and instead of actually creating another brand, a little bit let's say Virgin, it's there's Virgin and there's Virgin Mobile, there's Virgin Atlantic, there's Virgin Money. And he's like, I'm going to just basically take my brand and I'm going to go start acquiring other companies and just build this movement. Mm-hmm. And he did that. And he bought a company from that. He bought a company from that insight. And it's the second biggest producer of this particular thing. So my point is with the space, he got the space to get the insight because the information was always there. He just needed to stop and listen.
And it was down. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And this came, and he's like, I think this is it. And then he kind of talked about it for the week. I think this is it. And then it started to come up, and then he came back and he executed it, and he literally did it. But the thing is a lot of people, you can have these experiences, but if you don't go home and do something about it, it's a problem. It actually slaps in the face. Yeah. And so these changes are wonderful for executives and entrepreneurs, but if you don't action the changes you see, it's almost like you get a soul slap. It's worse. Mm-hmm. So I'm so grateful he did this. And not only that, he spent more time with family. And then what he did was he bought a beach house, and he bought a beach house when he came back, started planting more food. And then he spent more time with his kids. And then the company culture changed where it became a fun place. Where it was a company, but now it became a place people want to come to. And then he started recruiting better talent.
Oh, yeah. That's great.
Better environment. He changed the culture himself. It changed the company. Now, there is also a downside to some of these executives working on it, potentially for a little while. And the downside is so much change happens in such a short period of time that the integration is so important because they're trying to land a plane in a world where this is not fully comprehensible at this time. Because I have a lot to learn. We all have a lot to learn about these technologies, and these entheogens specifically. Yet if we don't have a proper integration space and someone to talk to, what I've seen is fragmentation. I've seen executives that run this particular person talking about their business was about 800,000. Okay, fine, but they started working with these things, and they weren't in safe environments, no landing pin, and they kind of like they became fragmented, and a little bit to the outside world would say they're having a crisis. What it was a spiritual crisis. They were reconnecting, but the environment was not conducive to a spiritual crisis, to a crisis. And the medicine man or medicine woman will generally be there to help them land the plane. This is why work like yours is so important, to integrate it. And then it was not good. It was like, he's like, I don't know, I just want to change everything. And he started changing everything, and it became a mess, and he had to rebuild it. It didn't.
So there's a balance.
Yeah, I guess my point is it's not all love and light, and it's there's integration is key. And I guess I'll leave you with this: is sometimes it's extremely dark. Well, here's what I found: the degree the executives or the entrepreneurs can actually see the darkness in the world and in themselves, and the more they're willing to explore that, then they get equally the possibility of light. But if someone's not willing to look at the dark, or they can go 10% in the dark, they'll only get 10% of what's possible in life. But if you're willing to face the mirror of accountability on this side, you'll also face this. And so some of the executives face, and I have myself, is that my life was built on a lot of lies, and I had to come to terms with that. Lies that I was telling myself, lies about what's important. And until I faced that life was pretty surface.
And then once you were able to face the darkness, face pain, face grief, face all those things, you develop the strength and courage to see and open up to what's on the other side of that.
Yeah, and it's a continuous journey. I mean, with what's happening in the world right now, it's pretty dark, and it's also an opportunity for all of us to step into ourselves and find the courage to face ourselves even more. And it's not easy. And I'm not perfect, far from it, and I have a lot to learn, and we all do. But what an opportunity we're sitting at right now. Yes,
absolutely. Great. And finally, how do you see psychedelic use for entrepreneurs shifting in the future? I know we have the ketamine-assisted psychotherapy that's just been legalized here in the States. We've got Johns Hopkins doing research on psilocybin. We've got the Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies using the MDMA. How do you see things shifting for entrepreneurs in the future?
I don't know if it's going to shift, but I have a hope it'll shift into this, where the incredible medicine men and women in the jungles of Peru and the Andes, and they have so much to share with us, and we have so much more to learn. So it is my hope that they're able to, the people that are working with these, continually learn from them as much as possible, and respect it as best we can, and give back and support these, because there are thousands and thousands or hundreds of thousands of remedies in the Amazon jungle. So it is my hope that some of the quote shamanic practices that gets brought into it a bit more, and in a safe environment as well. So, and also that we don't just make it a patented thing. I mean, you can't patent nature. So it is my hope that it doesn't just get destroyed. And when we develop our awareness of our symbiotic relationship with nature and ourselves, the more it becomes not about profitability, it becomes about the purpose and planet and people. And that's my hope. And it will be a little while before that, because right now it seems like we're in a transition, and it's all exactly as it should be. But now more than ever, it's a time to realize that we as human beings are connected to nature, and we're not odds with nature, and we can't control nature. And we've never been in control in the first place, I've found. And when we can let go of that, we can let things unravel in the way they're supposed to, at exactly the right time. So, and I'm grateful for people like yourself who actually create safe environments, because oftentimes these entheogens, these things are misused, and it's a problem.
Excellent. Well, Jeff, thank you so much for spending time with us all the way from Brisbane, Australia. We covered a host of topics. Are there any other last points that you'd like to leave the audience with before we sign off?
Yeah, I'll leave with this. As people begin to work, and now I have more of my experience is in the plant entheogens, okay? But I just ask that the people listening to this continually, as they work with these, that they give to our jungles, they give to the Amazon, they give to the people there as best they give back, and look after them. If they don't, they have so much wisdom. They say when a medicine man or medicine woman dies, it's like a library burning to the ground. So look after them. That's my last piece.
Excellent.
By giving.
Absolutely. Great. Well, thank you again for spending some time with us today, Jeff.
You're so welcome. Thank you so much.
Mm.